Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining me, excuse me, at Zyxel Networks this afternoon for this week's webinar. If you could give me just 1 minute for the remaining people to join. The numbers are going up. I can see people joining, so if you could just give people another minute, I'd appreciate it. So basically, the gist of this webinar is basically to do with Zyxel Networks 4G and future 5G devices and how you can use them and what the benefits are. So as I said, if you give me another minute, it should be all right. Thank you. Right, that's good. Looks like most of the people have joined now. So thank you very much once again, everyone. My name is Nigel Canning. I work for Zyxel Networks, do the UK sales engineer role for the South. My colleague Daniel Marsh covers the North, if you've ever met him before, and we alternate doing webinars once every couple of weeks. So what we wanted to do this week is go over Zyxel's, if you like, mobile broadband devices. So we're going to cover the 4G LTE devices, the LTE-A, i.e. the advanced, and the future 5G devices that are due September, October. I've deliberately kept it quite simple. I'm only going to go over a number of devices. There are more devices which I'm not going to mention. I've given you all the part numbers later on in the slides, which you'll see. But I'm focusing on 3 types of device, but there's actually 4 devices I'm going to go over. But what I wanted to do basically is just show how really now with sort of 4G and LTE advanced networks really covered throughout the country, you can basically install mobile broadband devices easily. You can do it for replacing broadband connections, or for providing high reliability broadband connections, or if you've got difficulty getting broadband in the countryside or wherever your area might be, that you can quite often use an LTE device to actually get really good coverage for a number of reasons. One of those reasons, I don't think people perhaps realize, that EE has had a contract with what's called the Emergency Services Network for quite a few years now. And that means their coverage of 4G networks has to be very high to essentially ultimately replace the Emergency Services Network. So EE has got coverage in mountains of Scotland, in the middle of nowhere, all kinds of places. So in fact, you'd be surprised where you can actually get a 4G LTE connection. Obviously, some of these devices have been around for a few years now. A couple of them have only come out in the last year. What I would say regarding 4G and 5G, 4G is clearly available, has been for quite a while, very stable, and you can get substantially higher speeds than you would imagine using LTE Advanced, the so-called LTE-A. So a lot of people maybe are holding fire for 5G. I personally wouldn't, because it's going to be a while before the 5G networks are in the same rolled out situation as the 4G networks are. You can get fantastic speeds at the moment already on 4G. So I think if you've got a requirement, you've got a reason, if you want failover, the whole point of this webinar is just to explain that these devices are available, they're high performance, cost effective. Why wouldn't you go with it? One of the key changes over the last 9 months, perhaps a year, but probably about 9 months, is that the availability of unlimited data and high gigabyte contract SIMs is come to the fore. So they're now actually very cost effective. Beforehand, a lot of people were very apprehensive about putting a SIM in a data device and letting it run, because you could be exposed and you get some horrendous bills. That just isn't the case now. I've got a number of people that I've worked with that have got some connectivity now in the countryside, a couple up in Derbyshire. They're using O2 unlimited data contract SIMs with a fair usage of 1 terabyte a month, which, you know, come on, 1 terabyte a month, and that's for less than £20. It's on a family contract. So if you've got a business which has got commercial SIM contracts, you know, you should be in the similar kind of ballpark. So what I want to do is I want to go over, as I said, 3 types of device. First is an indoor mobile broadband device. So you could think of it, if you like, as a replacement to a broadband router, so an ADSL broadband router. Then there's an outdoor mobile device, which is essentially for good signal areas, or a simple signal area, for want of a better word. And then there's another type of device, which is essentially outdoor once again, but for poor signal areas, or if you require really high performance. And then lastly, I'm going to go over one of our high-end 5G devices that is rolling out in September, already heavily used in Denmark on basically a fixed wireless internet service. And then there's some other hopefully useful links at the end of the presentation, which people might find useful. So at the end of the webinar, people should get sent the slides. If you don't get sent the slides, just email me and I'll send them over to you. But there are some links, there are part numbers, and hopefully there's some handouts, which are basically data sheets for each of the devices. In some respects, these 3 types of devices are my own sort of personal view on things, because there is a much broader range of devices, but I think there are almost, across the industry, too many devices. It's quite confusing. That's why I've just wanted to rationalize it down to the 3 types of device. So here we go. So obviously, most of the reason for this is basically to have mobile access wherever you are and whenever you are. So basically, it's a common sort of presentation slide that we get shown. Literally, the whole point of these devices is to have permanent internet connectivity anywhere and anytime using appropriate technology. I don't think a lot of people actually realize how Zyxel networks and the Zyxel service provider people have been in the mobile technology game, for want of a better word, for many years. We're engaged in numerous customer networks throughout the world, heavily in Europe. As I said earlier on, there's a huge project going on in Denmark and the Nordics, which basically is using fixed wireless solutions to provide internet connectivity to people's homes using wireless networks, mobile networks. So we've got a long heritage, a lot of sophisticated RF and mobile design skills in Taiwan. And basically we've been keeping customers connected to the internet for many years now, so it's not a surprise. The first device I want to go over is what's called the LTE 3301 Plus. And basically this is a 4G LTE advanced indoor router, and it also has a dual WAN failover capability, which I'll explain in a minute. But essentially I class this as the indoor mobile broadband device. Now the LTE-A means it's an advanced device, and it meets what's called category 6. There's some links at the end which explain LTE and categories and so on and so forth, but category 6 devices, their theoretical maximum downlink speed is 150 megs under the right conditions. This is what it looks like. Looks like a home broadband router. Got 2 external antenna, power button at the front, some mounting brackets at the side if you want it. Obviously quite neat, ideal in the home. Literally you've got a power internet connection coming out the back, put a SIM in. It supports Wi-Fi as well, so you can have Wi-Fi from the device. So it literally is, I'll show you the back as well, a replacement to a home broadband router. So you put the SIM in, put the power in, power it on. You don't normally have to configure it unless you want to configure it. It's got a local web interface just like most broadband routers at home, but you can dive on there, change the DNS settings, for instance, to change DNS to be Google and Cloudflare, things like that. One of the very useful features that you can put it to use, it basically has a dual WAN failover capability. So you can use the left-hand side yellow Ethernet port, if you see there. You could keep your home broadband router, plug that into the left-hand side port on here, and then take your connectivity from this device, the wired or the wireless connectivity from this device, and then you'd basically have a failover situation. So you would be able to provide internet access at home or in a business or temporary or whatever using copper broadband, i.e. DSL, and 4G. So if either of those fails, you will still have an internet connection. So if you're working from home or a small office or a cafe or pub that needs internet connectivity, reliable internet connectivity, this is a really simple, straightforward device, high quality, as I said, category 6. So if you get in the right areas, you get 150 meg down, no problem. So it'll probably be faster than your broadband. That's the irony of it. So this is a summary of what this offers. The 3GPP is a terminology, an LTE terminology, which if you look at Wikipedia and the links later on, you see what it actually means. But it's a category 6 device. It's category 4, that's 150 meg, apologies. Category 6 is 300 meg down, 50 meg up, theoretically. It has Wi-Fi, as I said, so it's got dual bands, so it's got 2.4 and 5 gig AC Wi-Fi. It seamlessly switches as well between 4G and 3G if 4G was to be down. So you've got failover on that side of things. It supports multiple countries, so European countries, no problems. If you want to use it in bridge mode, you can, but obviously as a mobile internet device, you're probably just going to use it in standard router mode. And as I just mentioned earlier on, it has dual WAN failover capabilities. If you are a service provider and you wanted to use this as some kind of fixed wireless access solution, it supports GR69 remote management, which if you're in that game, you know what that means. If you're not a service provider, just ignore this. And this is a very simple application diagram that I came across. Obviously, you've got your, let's say, home or office, small office environment. You've got the LTE 3301, and you can see how it works. So you've got your DSL being plugged into it as well. All your laptops and desktops, you've got wired connections, you've got wireless connections. And then what you see at the top, you've got the LTE or 4G or 3G connection. The two symbols which talk about carrier aggregation, that is what the category is all about. So the higher the category you go, the higher the aggregation you can do. What this basically means is you're using multiple frequencies at the same time from the base station, if the base station supports it, effectively aggregating them together to get a higher throughput. And it's the LTE-A features and carrier aggregations and the different categories that really give you performance. As I said slightly wrongly at the beginning, this is a category 6 device. Under the right conditions, if the base station supports it, you can get up to 300 meg down, which is, way faster than your DSL. But it's a really nice, simple, straightforward, cost-effective, high reliability or mobile broadband solution at home. So on here, this is just the standard spectrum. I'm not going to go over it. It's here in the slide so that when you get it afterwards, but you can see that it's a completely full-featured device. It's not just a simple MiFi type device. Excuse me. You've got 4 Ethernet ports. One is failover if you was to use it in that mode. It's got security, firewalling, NATing, all those kind of things. So it's a fully featured device. Then we move on to what I've called the outdoor mobile device for good signal areas, and this is what we call the 7240. So this is an outdoor device, so that means basically it is protected against the weather, and quite often these are used as a kind of failover or so-called sort of second WAN type device. So just get a quick drink. Excuse me. So it can work in bridge or router mode. It has a sophisticated high gain antenna so that you can get better signal and performance from it. It's fitted into an IP54 rated outdoor box, so you can just put it on a pole, put it on a chimney, top of a building, obviously facing mobile base station. And obviously it will survive harsh environments, and it works in low and high temperature range. So basically you can deploy it into your currently existing environment. So you might already have a connection, an internet connection, excuse me, and you can use this as a failover type connection, a backup connection, or to get some additional bandwidth if your broadband or lease line is quite low speed, or maybe obviously in the current circumstances, more people working from home, or you've got a small office that you need to up the bandwidth. You could add this as a second link to a router which has got 2 WAN ports and get additional throughput. Obviously, it can act as a failover type circuit, so you can use it as part of a high availability type solution. And once again, it's a really simple way of having an LTE mobile broadband connection. Simple, no problems. This is what it looks like. Sometimes whoops, don't know what happened there. I think my mouse bounced. So it's an external enclosure. Obviously, you can see you just put 2 screws on the wall, slot it down. It's got LED indicators. You can see at the bottom how you get connectivity to it. It needs to be powered via PoE. So all you really need to do is fit a SIM card into it, provide it with power over Ethernet and the Ethernet connection, and then obviously you can reset it and do Wi-Fi as well. You can see that there's a plastic clipped base on it, which covers the Ethernet port on the SIM, so on and so forth. And this is just basically a simple diagram showing you how it's being used. As I said, it can provide bridge mode as well. So if you wanted to have an internet connection with a real valid public internet IP, you could put it into bridge mode and put it into a suitable security device. If you want to use it in router mode so that it's firewalling for you, it'll do that. Obviously, that's what a lot of people use. Obviously, with regards to valid internet IPs, it depends on the SIM or the provider that you go for. So you need to be careful what you do with that. But here's another simple drawing of the non-stop type of connectivity. So you've got a router for the office, your wired broadband or your fiber gets cut. So the second WAN connectivity comes from 7240. So you have the so-called multi-WAN failover, and off you go. So it's very straightforward, not that sophisticated. Set it up, high reliability. One of the clever things about this is it's got a multi-band antenna, so it can pick up weak signals. And obviously, one of the things you really need to do is make sure you align it as best you possibly can to the base station. But the type of antennas and the solution that's inside this helps with, I think they quote it as a 7 dB gain, so that it will work effectively outdoors, basically. You can install it with, basically using approximate near line of sight. Obviously, you can connect to the device from a management point of view and tweak it. You can see the signal length. You can see all the parameters on the web GUI, so you can tweak it slightly. So somebody's up a ladder, get them to tweak it. You tell them in which direction and set it up. It's quite straightforward. If you are a service provider, and once again, you know what TR69 means, you can do firmware upgrades over the air for this. So from a fully capable solution with service providers and operators, you can use that. But today, really, I'm just coming up this as an individual or a reseller that wants to consider a straightforward mobile broadband connection for home or office, or a failover broadband connection for offices, or even for people at home in reasonable signal areas. So the next device is what I called outdoor mobile devices for poor signal areas, or that you required high performance. And now this is our so-called 7480M804. So this is an LTE advanced device, high category as well. It's IP rated again. I'll just click on to the next slide. This time it's an outdoor device, basically, once again, routing and bridge mode, very high gain antenna. It has an even more robust IP67 rated case and enclosure for harsh environments. Once again, it can be used as a main WAN connection or as a failover second WAN connection. So you can integrate it into current environments, or you can use it as a standard connection. I have a genuine end user person rang us into the office. They live in Derby, I believe it is, or in the Midlands near Derby. They had no decent broadband. They're in a farm. I think it gets about a 2 meg broadband connection. He bought one of these, installed it high up on the barn, and he gets 150 meg down, 50 meg up on this device with just standard setup on an, as I said, on an O2 SIM. So this is really straightforward. And if you think about it, he's gone from having no broadband in the farm, he's an IT person, but he works and lives at home, to now having 150 meg down. And he was talking about Sky. They watch Sky. They got Netflix. Yeah, so he's gone from nothing to having 150 meg down using one of these devices. This is what it looks like. The enclosure it's a higher rated, as I said, than the 7240. So this is really for, as I said, maybe even harsher environments. Maybe you're going to go even higher up, and it's really going to get battering. It's got sort of clamp type grommet input the black plastic screw there. So basically, you take the case off, put the SIM in. It's got power over Ethernet as well. It comes as a kit, so it comes with a wall mounting plate, which can be adjustable in terms of its direction. Also has an earthing cable, so you can earth it properly for lightning. And it's got 4x4 MIMO directional antennas, which you point at the base station. Now, the MIMO capabilities, carrier aggregation, that's what it's all about in terms of performance. And this is where this device is coming from. So it's looking at the difficult signal areas, and it's looking at the high performance requirements. As it says on here, so this is, as I said, it's a category 12 device. This means that if the base station supports it, and obviously you've got a good signal area, you can get 600 megs, up to 600 megs, using 4 spatial streams, basically, so basically bonding them all together. Obviously, it's showing you here from easy installation point of view. You can mount it up a pole on the top of a roof, even a tree if it was stable and the leaves aren't blocking you. Obviously, you can also mount it on a wall. The mounting bracket allows wall mounting, and you can tilt it sort of left and right and up and down slightly on the wall as well. It takes standard AF80 PoE from a power point of view. It also has a dedicated Wi-Fi access point built in. The idea of that is actually of connecting to that internal access point, for want of a better word, so that you can manage the device. And there's a mobile app that allows you to manage the device, as well as you can go into a web interface and manage it that way. Once again, because we're a service provider, and if you want to use it as part of a much bigger solution, it supports TR69 for remote management, configuration, and firmware upgrades. So that's once again the similar drawing from the sort of failover second WAN type solution, which everybody's now probably fully aware of. And also pointing out that it does have a multi-band antenna, once again quite high gain on those antennas as well. So if you can get near line of sight set up, you can get a connection. This is basically just pointing out a simple diagram that the IP rating of it is environmentally hardened, as they call it. So it does provide a higher rating than the 7240. So if you were going to go for maybe the 7240, you'd mount underneath the eaves of a house or something like that. This you can stick on a pole, stick it high up, and it can suffer storms and still survive. This is just an example of some people call fixed wireless access. So if you wanted to create your own sort of ISP type solution, you've got your mobile base station, you've then got the LTE device at the house. Each one of those houses obviously receives that signal. You then connect it to a residential gateway and provide internet connectivity within the house. So if you were thinking about creating a small sort of fixed wireless access ISP in areas where there's difficult fixed copper DSL connectivity, you can use this as a solution to provide internet connectivity to people in rural areas or other areas where there's TSL connectivity issues. Maybe you've got aluminium cabling or something like that. The next device, we move on to 5G. So this is in some respects similar to the previous device, and I call it an outdoor mobile device supporting 5G and 4G. So basically it's got backwards compatibility and works with 4G as well. It's termed a new radio. You might see this phrase 5G NR. The NR stands for new radio. It's an outdoor router again, so it can take care of harsh environments. So this is a simple statement about what it is. Obviously, it's fully compatible with 4G and 3G as well. Obviously, if you've got a 5G new radio fixed wireless access requirement, this would be an ideal device for it. In terms of its availability, essentially September or October is its availability. It's being used currently in the Nordics on some huge projects. It's effectively providing an internet service provider type solution across the country using 5G networks. So a lot of people don't realize what Zyxel does, because the service provider side of it, I suppose, hides some of that in some respects, because you don't know what's going on. But we're from the channel, and we're just pointing out that this kind of device is there. It's used heavily within service provider, reliable, well-engineered, quality device. These are the brief feature sets of it. So under the right kind of 5G conditions, you know, the theoretical maximum for that, the download speed is 5 gig with an upload speed of 650 meg. Clearly, those are maximum theoretical rates. Even if you're to get 1 gig down, that would be pretty amazing. I'm sure people will understand. On the download side of it, download link, it's got 4x4 MIMO. It's got 6 built-in antennas. Each of those elements can give you a gain of around 10 dBi, which if you know, if you've got a base station that's quite a long way away, that gain will help get a signal. It's powered by PoE again. It uses standard AF and AT specification PoE. Yet again, it's also remote manageable using TR69. So if you want to deploy it in a solution service provider type mode, you can do. Just like previous devices, it supports bridge and router mode, and it also supports IP version 6 on top of obviously IP version 4, which everyone's used to. It has an IP68 rated industrial enclosure. So once again, literally you can stick that on a pole, wire up a house, and it can survive any kind of storm. Once again, it has like an AP, Wi-Fi AP built into it so that you can manage it from a wireless connection. So obviously if you fit it up a pole and you need to connect to it, then obviously from a management point of view, an app makes it easy to do. And also you can do firmware over the air, the so-called remote firmware upgrades. It supports that as well. This is another just a textual version of all the features basically that have just been mentioned. Obviously you get these slides at the end of the presentation. Once again, picture of it if it helps. So once again, it's similar to the 7480 in terms of its enclosure. You've got PoE going in on the grommet that seals it. So when you twist that grommet, it pulls down. The rubber pulls down over the cable. The cover is off there on the SIM card. It supports 2 SIM cards. You've got LED indicators for status, and obviously a reset and Wi-Fi button as required. And then we've got a picture of the example application, which is a bit like the previous one. So this is basically an application scenario for providing fixed wireless access, but this time obviously using 5G new radio technology. So you've got an even higher speed fiber connection going into the 5G base station, in this instance 10 gig. And obviously you can then distribute high performance 5G wireless connectivity to houses or to businesses for that matter, or failover scenarios using this, in this time, 5G. So that's basically the products that I've picked out. So what I've put on the next couple of slides is basically these are the UK part numbers for all of the currently available devices. You see the 3301 Plus. Oh, whoops, sorry. 3301 Plus. You can see the 7480, and you can see the 7240. There are other devices on here. The 7460 model is the precursor to the 7480, but it is still available. It doesn't have this it's quite a high category as the 7480. It's category 6, so it's still got very high performance, but it's still available within the UK channel. So I've left it in there. There are other devices on there, little portable routers. They're all very capable, but as I said, I felt that there are quite a few devices, and I've simplified it down to outdoor devices and a indoor sort of mobile broadband replacement to a DSL connection. But all the part numbers are on here if people are interested. If you look at our Zyxel global website, you might see other devices. They are not available within the UK. The only devices that are available in the UK are the devices in this table with a so-called UK part number. The other thing I've put on here is rather than me try and go over a lot of things, as ever, Wikipedia is very good at, if you want to look at what LTE Advanced offers, understand categories and so on and so forth, these are the links in here. There's also, if you need to obviously install these type of devices, you might need to work out where the base station is that your device will connect to. Now, there's a link here to what's called the Network Cell Info. It's an app that's only available for Android. I've got it on my phone. It's the only app I've ever paid for. It's amazing. Basically, you can put your SIM into your phone, look at the connection. You can look at the base station map. It'll tell you on a map which base station your phone is connected to. So if you imagine going to a customer, obviously your phone has to have the appropriate carrier SIM in. You can work out which base station you're going to connect to, and then obviously you can look on an ordnance survey map and work out the compass direction and so on and so forth. So it's really great for working out how many cell towers and base stations you can actually see, because obviously in an ideal world you'd be able to receive multiple towers from a reliability point of view. Obviously in the countryside you're only likely to receive one, but in urban areas and that sort of thing, maybe beside motorways and so on and so forth, you might receive multiple stations. But this application is amazing, absolutely amazing. There's another useful website called Cell Tower Mapper. If you go to it, you can see where cell towers are, what the capabilities are, what the provider is, so on and so forth. The best thing to do is just go to these locations and have a look. They're amazing. And then if you need to understand the frequencies and so on and so forth for the carriers, spectrum monitoring is very useful. And just to remind myself actually of what the categories were. So category 4 device, which is 7240, you're talking about 150 meg download, which is the maximum. Category 6 is 300, category 12 is 600. These are obviously best cases, and obviously don't forget that the base station itself has to support LTE advanced. Some people put it on their phones or display it on their phones as LTE plus, a little plus symbol. But if you've got an LTE plus or an LTE A symbol, that means you've got an advanced LTE connection. So that's half an hour just up. Thank you very much for joining me. I'm going to stay on the line for 5 minutes or however long it takes to answer any questions. I can see there's a few questions. Thank you for your time. I hope you're all well. If you need any help, if you've got any more questions, or you want to ask questions about some of the devices that I haven't covered, just ping me an email. It's nigel.canning@zyxel.co.uk. I'm more than willing to do what I can to try and help. But thank you once again. There are also some handouts that get sent afterwards as well. These are just data sheets. And there's also, I'll see if this comes up on the screen actually, so bear with me if I'll just drag this over. Hopefully you can see this. There we go. There's a very useful guide called the product guide, which I've put on the webinar handouts. So basically it covers in very straightforward terms how you would use our mobile broadband devices, what they're for. You can see the type of solutions. You can see a nice sort of graph on the right hand side here showing you LTE, LTE-A, so-called LTE-A Pro, which isn't really available in this country, and what the usages are and so on and so forth, and how latency is reduced as well. So I thought this is quite a useful product guide, so I stuck it on the handout. So you can see the 7240, you can see the 7480, you can see the NR7101, and you can see obviously the 3301 Plus from an indoor point of view, but you can also see some of the other devices. So you'll get that via a handout. It also gives you a quick summary, gives you frequency bands, the type of technology, feature sets so that you can compare. So hopefully this is a useful product guide that you will receive as well. Just go back up there. But yeah, I thought that might be useful. So if there are any more questions, I will go quiet and answer them. But thank you very much indeed, everybody, and hope you have a nice bank holiday weekend. Thank you once again. I'm going to stay on the line and answer the questions.